setting the stage for your Georgia Saturday. This is DawgNation GameDay. Brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors, Kroger, and R.S. Andrews. Now live from Jittery Joes in Athens, here's your host, Kaylee Mansell.
For possibly the last time this season, take a good long look at Sanford Stadium, a place near and dear to all Georgia fans, a place where memories are made, and a place where opposing teams' dreams come to die. It's a place that's often overlooked, but those who root for the red and black understand the power it holds and what it truly means to be between the hedges. Today we celebrate it in all of its glory, and we honor those seniors who have given everything they've had to Sanford over the last 4 years. So for those who are questioning how Georgia stays motivated against a team like Charlotte, I think it's best we let one of UGA's most celebrated seniors tell you himself.
It's simple. It's senior day this week. When I was younger and those older guys were playing their senior day, it didn't matter who you were playing. You want to send them off the right way. So I think that's going to juice everyone up this week, and we're excited. I'm excited, and for it to be possibly my last game in Sanford, it's gonna mean a lot to me.
Welcome in, Dawg Nation. This is DawgNation GameDay. I am Kaylee Mansell, and there's so much to celebrate here on an early morning in Athens, Georgia, whether it's celebrating the seniors, those that chose to come back and stay all 4 years, or just celebrating the fact that we have made it to this point in the season. It has been one full of twists and turns, but all of those moments have led us to this one, and we owe it to the Georgia coaching staff and its players that have shown us that giving up is not an option. I think at this point we can say that Georgia is peaking at the right time, and the Dogs will give everything they have for 4 quarters, even against a team like Charlotte. So even though this game isn't Ole Miss or Texas or Georgia Tech next week, just like the Dogs, DawgNation GameDay is going to give you everything it's got for the next 4 quarters. So why don't we go ahead and show you what we've got going on today's episode, starting with the fact we're going to take a moment to celebrate the seniors, talk about the legacy that they're going to leave, not just on paper, but also in our hearts and in our minds. We're going to take the briefest moment to talk about Charlotte. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I thought that their head coach, Tim Albin, said something really interesting about what it means for them to face the Dogs. So we'll talk about some of their numbers and then also hear from their head coach as well. Then, of course, our friend Rodrigo Blankenship will join us to talk about that onside kick from last week that I'm still thinking about this morning, and discuss what happens from here on out regarding the SEC championship and what's the most likely scenario for the Dogs in that situation. We're going to follow it up with the first look at the team with our Kroger Dawg Walk, plus satisfying stats, which will be a fun one today. Obviously, when you play a team like Charlotte, you can get a little bit creative. So not the ones that we're used to seeing, but I had fun putting these together. Next, we're going to discuss some of the players that I want to see have their opportunity today, get the starters out of there, let the young guys have their opportunity. And we're also going to catch up with Jeff Sentell on which freshman has impressed him the most this season. And we're going to talk about another freshman we could potentially see today if things go really, really right. I also have one key and one key only today, and I stand by the fact that this should be everyone's key to the game. So, of course, we'll get to that later. And then Connor Riley's going to join me to talk about Ryan Puglisi and what is clicking with Georgia's pass rush at this moment in time. And then, of course, something to get you hype and my final thoughts on the game. But before we do any of that, the big storyline today, it's senior day. And, I don't really think that there's much I can do to stand up here and tell you something that's going to give this group enough justice or enough credit for what they've done on paper and off the field as well. They came into the program during a time where the college football landscape was changing, but they've still given us hope and showed us that you can be paid to play the game and still love the university and give them everything you've had. There's so many intangibles about this class, but let's just go ahead and show you what they've done on paper this far, the legacy behind the numbers that the senior class will have. 48-5 overall, including 24-1 at Sanford Stadium. We don't have to talk about the one. We know the power that Sanford has given these players and what they've given back to them. Also, one national title in 2022 now for a lot of these guys. Most of them didn't play in that game, which I think makes them more motivated to win one this season. And then, of course, 2 SEC championship titles back in 2022 and the most recent one in 2024. For me, this is a group that's motivated to win. I think we see that so much with the seniors and their desire to be able to say, we got this national championship ourselves. And for me, the senior that comes to mind is the one that chose to come back even after admitting he had one foot out the door last season. You can see on the field how much his senior year has changed him. But let's hear from Oscar Delp himself personally on how his mindset has changed in his senior season.
Yeah, it really all starts when we got here as freshmen. With the whole NIL era now, it's easy to leave and go ask for a ton more money at other places. And any guy in my class could have done that. And just to have those guys that really stuck through it all that are still here just shows how much they care about this program and what it means to them. And, it kind of starts with us pouring into the younger guys this offseason and just bringing them all along. And, our team's so special. I think you could plug in a young guy at any position and there'd be little to no drop off. So that's just how special it is to us and this team.
I love this idea of passing down the torch because the senior group that Oscar Delp played with when he was a freshman is one that was so special and I feel like really changed the course of this program. So to know that Oscar is finally at his senior moment and the selflessness acts in which he talks about of it doesn't matter what comes out on paper, it doesn't matter what the media is saying or the recognition that you get for the exciting plays. It's the role that you have to take on. And I feel like we've talked about Oscar Delp so much as a blocker this year and how much his blocking game has increased. I think he's the best blocking tight end in all of college football, and I think that goes to show that he understands there's a role that he has to play to make this team be the most successful version of themselves. And so I just really thought that Oscar, if you haven't had the opportunity to do it yet, go back and watch Oscar Delp's full press conference on our DawgNation YouTube page from Monday. I thought it was the best one that we've seen from a player all season, and I think that goes to show that the culture within the Georgia program, what they teach, what they value, what they honor, Oscar Delp really embodied that. There was also something else that he mentioned sort of off the top of that, having to do with NIL, which I thought was interesting because when Kirby Smart was asked about the senior class legacy, he also mentioned the NIL front. Here is Kirby Smart on his seniors and what legacy they'll leave and what he'll remember them for.
Probably, more about this year because the majority of this senior class has had an increased role, at least from a leadership perspective, maybe a snap perspective in some guys' cases this year, because there were a lot of seniors last year. And this class has been unique in that this season's been different. They've been part of the new culture, first real senior class that was kind of brought into this group. A couple of them left last year, so Malachi and Michael, they were all part of this class that's gone. But when you look across the board, the fourth-year seniors, they were kind of the first. It was in its infancy, but they were in the NIL stage in phases. So, proud of them, love them like I do the others, and I want to continue for them to grow.
I think it's hard for us to look at the players being paid and be sympathetic towards their situations, but I do hold some sympathy for those seniors who came into college as the landscape was changing because you are the guinea pigs. You are the trial and error, and when you're that young and you're given that much money, the power goes to your head, and we've seen kids leave to go to other programs for more money, or they're choosing what would typically be their second or third school to go to a place that's going to play more. So I think that's why we have to celebrate these seniors who have been here for all 4 years even more, because I'm sure plenty of them had the opportunity to go somewhere else and get more playing time or get paid more to go somewhere else. But people like Oscar Delp really set the example for the fact that you can get paid, still love your university, still give everything that you've got. And even though you may have had one foot out the door last year thinking that you were going to go to the NFL, you decided to come back because you knew that was the best thing that could happen for you in the long run. So, in a day and age where we look at these players so differently because of the paycheck that they make, it's players like Oscar Delp and Cash Jones and so many others that still give me hope that this sport is the one that we know and love. So take a moment to love on those seniors today. I'm excited to see their celebrations, and just know that even on a day like today where it's not an SEC game, just knowing how much this game means to the seniors, I think it makes it mean even more to me as well, just hearing their experiences from freshman year to now. So wanted to take a second to celebrate them. We will continue to do that all day and all season long for whatever is to come. Now, we do have to talk about Charlotte a little bit. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but just to give you some insight on what this team is capable of or not capable of, we'll give you a glimpse into the numbers. Let's start with the offensive side of the ball. Now, I do want to clarify, AAC, Charlotte is in the American Athletic Conference. When you look at their offense, last in the conference for rushing yards per game, 10th in the conference for passing yards per game, 10th in the conference for third down conversions as well, and then tied for 11th in the conference for 23 sacks allowed. So only 14 teams in the conference. So when you see 14, that means last. Now, in comparison to Georgia, just so you have a better point of view, they've allowed 23 sacks this year. Georgia has only allowed 13. And then to kind of sum all of this up, Charlotte is 7th worst in the nation for points scored. And then when you go to the defensive side of the ball, that theme kind of continues. You'll see here allowing 206 rushing yards per game, also last in the conference, second to last in the conference for passing yards per game, second last in the conference for total sacks on the season. However, I will say that Georgia only has one more sack than Charlotte, just 13 sacks on the year, but that's okay. They're improving as they go. And then also 42 tackles for loss. Again, to sum it all up, 4th worst in the nation for points given up. So I don't want to be too pessimistic. There's actually a decent amount of Charlotte fans in town, but I knew this team wasn't great, but they were definitely worse than I thought they were going to be. But here's the thing. One thing I do respect is when a coach stands up for his program, shows no fear. So I did want to let you guys hear from their head coach, Tim Albin, on what it means for Charlotte to face a team like Georgia.
So, huge challenge this week at Georgia. We all know the caliber of team they are, a playoff contender at this time. And, what I want to say is, hey, we respect all opponents and fear none. We're going to go in there and play for 4 quarters. We have 26 seniors in this football team. They're laying the foundation for the future of this program. And so we're going to go in there and compete.
You know what, truly, I think that's the right way to approach it. I mean, the players are only going to believe in themselves as much as their head coach does. So fearing no one, playing the game the same way, playing the game for 4 quarters, I have the utmost respect for that. Even though they understand what they're up against, they will never have the talent to compete with a team like Georgia. I like the confidence in the coach. I like the confidence that he has in his team. So wanted to make sure that you guys heard from Tim Albin, the head coach at Charlotte. Still to come, we'll talk to our friend Rodrigo Blankenship on the player mindset of playing a team like Charlotte. We'll also talk about the SEC championship game, the scenarios that could unfold over the next 2 weeks. But first, we want to remind you that here on DawgNation GameDay, while we are in Athens, we are always at the downtown location of Jittery Joes. I've been so grateful for the people that have been coming in to see me over the last few weeks. It just gives me a sense of comfort before every game, and I'm really sad at the potential that this could be our final game of the season here. I'm hoping that it's not. I'm hoping that Georgia gets a first-round playoff game so we can be back here. But there's nothing more special to me than being at this place, being surrounded by Georgia fans. I know we've been preaching that all season long, but I also know that not everyone can get to Athens on a game day. So to reap the benefits of Jittery Joes, make sure you look into your Google Maps or on your phone. You can find a location near you, not just in Athens. They have some in Atlanta as well, so you can find the one closest to you. Or now that Christmas is coming up, we have the commemorative cans here on the ends of the tables that you can see. That's a great gift for people, whether it's something that you just want to hold for decoration, or I even went home the other day and saw that they were using it for the coffee inside, which is just as great. So if you do have the chance to make your way to Jittery Joes, I encourage you to download the Jittery Joes app. That way you get a percentage off your first drink and also skip the line. And for a morning like today, early kickoff, a lot of people in here, it would definitely be beneficial for you. So also just want to take this time to thank Jittery Joes for allowing us to be here, do our game day setup, and surrounding us with amazing people that make this show just feel so much better knowing I'm preaching it to Georgia fans at the end of the day. So with that, we'll give them one more shout out. Fingers crossed that I'll have the opportunity to be here one more time. All right, so now I want to go ahead and bring in our good friend Rodrigo Blankenship. We're going to switch things up today, talk about some things for today, also some big picture stuff. Just to kind of go ahead and get it out of the way, you know, Kirby Smart says that this team doesn't practice or prepare any different for Charlotte. It's the standard. It's the culture. But at least from the player perspective, I mean, is your mindset different going into a game like this, especially just having played such an important game like Texas and knowing that Georgia Tech is looming?
I think that the mindset is going to be pretty much the same. As funny as that it may be to hear, I do think that the mindset is pretty much the same because, as we've heard from Coach Smart, the standard is the standard. And it doesn't matter what opponent is lining up across from you on a week-to-week basis. You want to bring your absolute best. You don't want to have a situation where you have a Michigan versus App State, monumental upset that, will be remembered forever in the history of college football. You don't want something like that to happen to your program. So you want to bring your absolute best every weekend, whether you're playing against Texas, whether you're playing against Georgia Tech, or whether you're playing against Charlotte. You want to bring your absolute best, make sure you leave a good impression with the coaching staff and show them that you're continuing to execute at a high level, continuing to understand the game plan, and continuing to get better every week. So even for me, I want to make sure I go out and deliver my best performance. So yeah, the mindset shouldn't be any different, and I think that a lot of these players really understand that, and they've really taken that to heart, and I expect that they're going to bring their best today as well.
I also think it being senior day, the motivation for those guys and wanting them to go out on a high note will be one of the big factors keeping this team going for 4 quarters today. You've been in that position yourself. Your senior day was a little different. It was against Texas A&M. What do you remember most about that day? And when you look at this year's senior class, what's the legacy that they'll leave in your mind?
Yeah, I think the thing that I remembered most about my senior night was the awful weather. It was pouring rain pretty much all game. I was soaking wet in the senior photos that I have that's, hanging in my house. My senior photo, everyone is in their poncho or their raincoat because the weather was awful for that game. But it was just a really incredible moment to get to be in Sanford Stadium one final time. We obviously didn't have the potential for, a home playoff game in the first round at that time. So I knew for certain that was going to be my last ever time playing in Sanford Stadium, and I just wanted to make sure that I soaked it all in, literally and figuratively. Wanted to make sure that I soaked it all in as best I could. It was great to have so much of my family there, my friends there, and it was a really incredible experience. So even with the awful weather, we still were able to come away with the win and still made it a really memorable night. And for this senior class, their legacy is, still being written, but this has the potential to be one of the best senior classes in Georgia history, especially for our fifth-year players, because our fifth-year players started their careers, for our redshirt guys, they started their career with back-to-back national championships in 21 and 22, and now they have the potential to go out on a high note, and some of these fifth-year guys could potentially have 3 national championships in 5 years. Obviously, there's still a lot of football that has to be played. They've got to take care of business against Tech and whatever else may find them after that, but the senior class has the potential to be one of the most legendary senior classes in Georgia football history, and I'm really excited to have the opportunity to do that this year.
Well, I don't know if this is going to make you feel any better. It is not pouring down rain today. It is a little gloomy outside. The sunshine is not out yet. Maybe that'll change throughout the course of the day. Not raining, but not necessarily sunny either. I do want to reflect on some things from last week just to get your insight. We're going to talk about the onside kick here in just a moment, but I do want to ask you about Brett Thorson because he has been one of the most consistent forces on this team since he entered the program, but it was very evident that he struggled last week. It wasn't the version of Brett Thorson that we're used to seeing. Is that something to be concerned about moving forward?
I don't think it's anything to be concerned about. As you said, Brett has been one of the most consistent players for the University of Georgia in his career here. And, speaking from the perspective of someone who has also had to go through a significant injury and rehab process, I think it's probably just a matter of confidence and just, getting a feel for just being back out in the flow of the game, the speed of the game. It's obviously very different than being in practice. And I think that Brett probably just needs a few more game reps to just really feel his maximum comfort level as he did pre-injury. I had a hip injury a couple years ago and had a very lengthy rehab process, and there were some mental blocks along the way trying to get back into full form and full confidence in my body that's going to allow me to deliver and execute at a high level like I was able to pre-injury. And so I think that that's probably the same thing for Brett. I think he just needs to continue to get reps. Practice makes perfect, as we all know, and he just continues to build that confidence up in practice and in games, and I think he's going to be just fine for this stretch run for the Dawgs.
Truthfully, we could have spent our entire time on this show together talking about last week's onside kick. I have so many questions. What was your reaction? How much did y'all practice that? From a kicker perspective too, how nervous are you in that moment? Just tell me everything that you thought about it when you saw it and the level of prep work that goes into completing a play like that.
Yeah, first I was jumping off my couch when I saw that happen. That was an incredible moment in the game and really ended up being a turning point where Georgia really just poured it on to Texas last week. And a very pivotal moment in the game. And it actually reminded me of my senior night, as we talked about earlier, against Texas A&M, where we also had a surprise onside kick where it was a similar, not same type of onside kick. Instead of the, kick off the ground as Peyton had executed it last weekend, I had kind of a pop pass or a chip pass over to that far sideline, and we had one of our kickoff coverage players was supposed to go and fall on it. Now, unfortunately, due to the weather and due to the conditions, the field was so slick that our recovery player slid right over the ball, ultimately allowing Texas A&M to jump on it and recover it. But as soon as I saw that happen, it took me back to that moment, and I think it was just really cool to see, the evolution of Georgia football, where maybe we fell short trying to pull off one of those plays, 4 or 5 years earlier in Coach Mart's tenure. Now the program has elevated to a new level, and now we're executing on all cylinders in every facet of the game, offense, defense, and special teams, and really just ended up being a super pivotal moment. And I mean, the preparation that goes into it, I think that Peyton had probably been working on that onside kick for at least 3 weeks leading up to the game. If that's not something that he has executed several weeks in a row on a consistent basis to near perfection, Coach Mart is not going to trust him. It's not going to trust the team to go out and execute that in a game. So that leads me to believe that they've been working on that for several weeks leading up to this game, and that Peyton has been dialed in with how he's been executing it. And our recovery players like Cash Jones have been picking it up more times than not in practice, which gave Coach Mart the confidence to go out and put it out in the game. And we saw the results of it. Georgia ends up scoring another touchdown and really just starts to, put the throttle to the floor against Texas last week. So, all in from start to finish was just an incredible moment and a great piece of execution for everybody involved on the kickoff coverage team. So big props to them.
So I'm glad that you bring up Cash Jones. You have to give Peyton Woodring so much credit, but it takes two people to complete that play. The other person was Cash Jones. So I want to let you hear from Cash Jones on recovering the onside kick.
Obviously, I was a little nervous. The ball's not a circle, so you don't really know where it's going to bounce. But we practiced that since, I think 5 years ago. Like, whenever I first got here, like, it was always been a thing. And I was like, oh, we're never going to call it. Like, no way. And then whenever Coach Smart finally said, we're going to do it, I was like, oh, gosh, this is where you got to go back to all your training and all that. And just Peyton kicked a perfect ball, I don't think it's ever been that perfect, and just whenever the pressure was on us, it turned out our way.
So it's one of those situations where you have to have so much trust in each other. Not only does Peyton have to get it there, but Cash also has to recover it. I mean, as a kicker, how much trust do you have to have in the other person that's responsible for going to get the ball?
Yeah, you have to have an immense amount of trust in them. And, I think Cash has showed us over his time at the University of Georgia that he's a very trustworthy player. He's got great hands coming out of the backfield. He's always really great in pass protection, taking care of our quarterbacks when he needs to. So I think Cash has shown from what he does on offense, and especially with his other roles on special teams as well, that he's a very trustworthy player. And I think that he was a perfect player to scheme up to have recovered that football, because we know he's got great hands. We know he's got great instincts as well. And so I think that he was a perfect choice for that. And so I'm sure, he's been able to recover it time and time again in practice. As he said, it sounds like Peyton probably hit the best ball he's ever hit repping that play, and it came at the perfect time to get that recovery.
So last thing, moving into the big picture stuff, really there's nothing that today the outcome changes. Everything else is in the hands of other SEC teams like Alabama, Texas A&M, potentially an Ole Miss. So when it comes to the SEC championship game, what do you think is the most likely scenario, and which outcome do you think would favor Georgia the most in the long run?
Well, I hate to say it, but I think the most likely scenario is that we see Texas A&M and Alabama playing in the SEC championship. As much as I would love to see the Dogs in that game from a former player's perspective, being a competitor, wanting to be in that game and have a chance to compete, to be named the champion of the SEC. I wish that these guys were going to have the opportunity to do that. There still is a possibility, but in terms of the most likely scenario, I think it's going to be A&M versus Alabama. There's obviously not too much that has to go in Georgia's favor for that to happen. If either A&M or Alabama loses in the last week of the season, the Dogs are in. So it's not like they have to have a hope and a prayer and 8 other things need to happen for them to make it. So there is a pretty short track for them to be able to get to that game, but A&M and Alabama, obviously are still in pole position, so they have to take care of business. However, I do think that would be advantageous for the Dogs. As we saw last year playing in the SEC championship, our starting quarterback gets injured. So if you're not playing that week, for one thing, you can't lose and drop any spots in the playoff rankings. And two, you don't risk any injuries to any of your key players that could affect your outlook for the playoffs. So I don't think it's going to be the worst thing in the world if the Dogs aren't playing in the SEC championship. However, I do think that there may be a little bit of an extended break time if Georgia is to maintain their current position at the 4 spot like they are right now. If A&M is to beat Alabama in the SEC championship, if Texas Tech, skirts by the hairs on their chinny chin chin or loses the Big 12 championship, Georgia could be sitting at the 4 spot going into the playoffs, and they could be off for conference championship weekend and be off in the first round of the playoffs, at which point they would have the longest break of any team that will likely be in the 12-team college football playoff this year. And so I know last year we saw what happened with all the teams that had a bye. I'm not sure if having an extra week is going to do more harm than good, whatever the case may be, but it's just something that I've been thinking about a lot is, what is the potential downtime going to look like for Georgia? They may play against Georgia Tech on Black Friday and then not play again until New Year's. That would be the longest break of any team in the field. And so, there may be a little bit of rust that may come in at that point if you're not tackling at live game speed or whatever the case may be. So, I'm be interested to see what's going to happen. Obviously, I would love for the Dogs to be in the SEC championship, but it's not going to be the worst thing in the world if they don't. They just have to make sure that they handle that downtime the right way so that they're ready to go whenever their number's called in the playoffs.
It's crazy to think that we've been having this conversation since Georgia came out of its second bye week. Now we are 8 days away from finding out what's going to end up happening. So, Rodrigo, as always, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on the postgame show with Brandon Adams.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on again this morning, and go Dogs.
And a go Dogs to you as well. So we still have so much more to come on the show. After the break, we'll get a first look at the team. We'll also hear from Jeff Sentell and Connor Riley on both of the Ryans that we could see today. But first, we're going to take a short break. This is DawgNation Game Day.
Feel more like a home than quality windows. So trust the professionals at Pella Window and Door of Georgia. We'll equip your home with energy-efficient windows and doors just right for you. Schedule your free in-home, no-pressure consultation. Get product samples, installation options, and a free quote. Log on to PellaGA.com and visit our new Experience Center in Duluth. Tell them Brandon Adams sent you. Pella Window and Door of Georgia, viewed to be the best.
Hey, Dawg Nation. I'm Brandon Adams. If you love what Kaylee Mansell does here in our DawgNation GameDay pregame show, and I know you do, you'll also love our DawgNation postgame show. After every UGA home game, we're live at the UGA bookstore. And after every game, we're also available to you on the DawgNation video channels. We have video highlights, live calls, plenty of post-game reaction. Hopefully, talking about big Georgia wins each and every Saturday. The place to be after the game is on the DawgNation post-game show. We'll see you there after today's game.
This is DawgNation Game Day, brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors, Kroger, R.S. Andrews, and Jittery Joes Coffee.
Welcome back, Dawg Nation. This is DawgNation Game Day. Today we are celebrating the seniors. We're celebrating the potential last game in that stadium right there. Of course, that's Sanford Stadium, and potentially maybe the last time that we get a dog walk into Sanford. So why don't we go ahead and take a look at it. This is our Kroger Dawg Walk.
Hello and welcome into DawgNation's coverage of the Dawg Walk presented by Kroger on a senior day between the hedges. And how about a senior leading the way? Dalen Everett leading the Dogs into Sanford Stadium as they get ready to tangle with Charlotte this afternoon. Big Monroe Freeling on the far side. So many kids in attendance today. It's really cool to see. How about Christian Miller going with the blue here today? Got it. Gunnar Stockton making his way in, got this traditional hat on. He's giving those young fans a thrill of a lifetime there. Little drizzle as we make our way into Sanford Stadium. Raylan Wilson with the jug of water as he looks to stay hydrated on this day inside Sanford Stadium. Micah Morris on senior day looking very sharp in the black blazer. Nice to see the redshirt senior. How about there you go, Trey Scott, the defensive line coach. London Humphreys on the far side, shaking some hands as well. Noah Thomas got the shades on, even with the cloud out today. He's caught touchdowns in 3 consecutive games, caught a couple last week against Texas. Could Noah Thomas continue to be a big factor for this Georgia team. More players making their way in. James Coley, wide receivers coach, coming right through your screen right now. Also expecting to see a lot of young players. You see Kirby Smart on the far side, Colby Young coming through as he is still on crutches, but how about Kirby meeting some of those young fans we talked about? Just so much family atmosphere in a game like this late in the season. Not the drama that we saw last week. Chauncey Bowens and C.J. Allen coming in as well into your screen. Jaden Riddell. How about Ryan Puglisi? What can we see out of the backup quarterback today? Could be a big day for him, as hopefully the Dogs can get him on the field early. Chris Cole making his way in with a nice luggage, two bags right there for Chris Cole. More Dogs making their way into the stadium right now. Remind you, all of this is brought to you by Kroger. It's a big week for Kroger. If you need to make plans to have everything delivered to your house for your Thanksgiving Day feast, you can do that using Kroger Boost. Sign up now. Kroger.com/boost is where you can do all of that. Big Juan Gaston coming in right now, wearing the blue suit as well. How about Drew Bobo on the far side, shaking some hands as well. More Dogs making their way into Sanford Stadium here. The last few coming through. Coach Thacker shaking hands with some of the fans. He's got some of his kids in there. His kids featured in our hype video this week. Big Jaw Jackson. Again, more backups that we could see on the field today, getting extended playing time against Charlotte. Should be really, really interesting to watch. Joseph Jonah Ajanye coming into the stadium right now. Glenn Schumann, CJ Wiley. Could we see a little more of the freshman wide receiver today? How about, there you go. More Dogs making their way in right now. Zachariah Branch shaking some hands as he makes his way into the stadium. Roderick Robinson coming in right here. Could number 0 get some more run on a day like this? There's Talon Taylor. Interesting to see him looking pretty good. No sling like we had been seeing. Don't expect to see him today, but making his way back. Hopefully we can see him at least by the end of the year. Isaiah Gibson looks like the last one of the freshmen rounding things out. And Chase Linton right behind him. So a couple of freshmen rounding things out on his senior day between the hedges. Looking forward to Georgia and Charlotte. Kaylee, I'll send it back to you.
How about our friend Cody Chaffins, who has absolutely crushed the Dawg Walk this year? For more with Cody Chaffins, you can check out On the Beat every Monday night, 7 o'clock. I know they'll have a good episode this coming week to really set up the Georgia Tech game and the stakes that's going to hold. So Monday night, 7 o'clock, On the Beat, Cody Chaffins, Mike Griffith. All right, so now it is time for satisfying stats. I had a lot of fun putting these together for this week. A little room for creativity against a team like Charlotte. So on the offensive side of the ball, the real numerical value for me, I just want to see over 240 rushing yards for the Dogs. Charlotte is last in the conference for rushing defense, 6th worst in the country. Absolutely lay it on them, especially if you get to the end. You're just trying to waste some time off the clock. Hand it off, let it run. This is what this Georgia team does so well. So 240 plus. 0 turnovers. Don't give the ball back to him. Keep the crowd invested. No turnovers today. I'd also really love to see someone score their first career touchdown in Sanford Stadium, whether that's a young guy or maybe a player that just doesn't really get the opportunity despite being a veteran on the team. I think it's really something to celebrate. So with so much opportunity for the young guys out there today, want to see somebody score their first career touchdown. We are fully expecting Ryan Puglisi to play, but I feel like if things are going really, really well for the Dogs, there's a chance that we're going to see Ryan Montgomery, and that's something that we're actually going to talk to Jeff Sentell about here in a moment. So give me both the Ryans out there today. On the defensive side of the ball, this is a Charlotte team that definitely passes more than it runs, so 150 passing yards or less. It is well below Charlotte's average. 3 teams on their schedule have done this so far this season, and Georgia held Marshall and Austin Peay to less than this, so I could have put this number a lot lower, but let's just go 150 in case some of the younger cornerbacks and secondary get time in there today. I'm going 4 sacks, aiming really high. It would be a team high for this season. Also 7 tackles for loss. Not a season high, but it would tie the season high so far this season. And then also I feel like if there's an opportunity for a defensive touchdown, that would come today. There's not been one all season long. The last defensive touchdown from this Georgia team came last year during the UMass game when Chris Cole had the scoop and score. So if there was ever a time for a defensive touchdown, I would like to see some as they play bigger teams. But give me one today potentially from a guy like a Dominic Kelly or maybe even a Zayden Walker. So that's going to be my satisfying stats for today. And then in honor of it being a game like Charlotte, we know that the goal is to get the starters in there, get up big, get them out, give young guys some opportunity. So I wanted to talk about 3 guys that I would love to see have their big breakout moment that we've kind of been waiting on today. The first one is one that Cody actually talked about in the Kroger Dawg Walk. That's going to be freshman wide receiver CJ Wiley, the 4-star who we heard so much about during fall camp, just because he's built like a collegiate wide receiver, plays that similar role that Colby Young and Noah Thomas do. He was the number 17 wide receiver in the class of 2025 and number 139 overall. Came from Milton, though, which is very much a competitive program in the state of Georgia. Very plug-and-play guy. He has appeared in games, but just hasn't recorded any stats for 2025. He was also the 10th highest rated signee of the 2025 class. I think he would have played more this season, but just because you bring in Noah Thomas, you've got more depth at that position, someone who already has more experience. So for me, maybe CJ Wiley is that guy that scores his first career touchdown today, because we know he's got the ball skills. So that was the first one for me. Want to talk about a young guy on the defense who I'm honestly surprised we haven't seen more of this far, and that's going to be Isaiah Gibson. Again, just like CJ Wiley, has appeared in games but hasn't recorded any stats. He was the number 1 edge in 2025, the number 14 player overall. He was the 2nd highest rated signee in the 2025 class, only after Elijah Griffin. And we're actually going to talk to Jeff Sentell in just a moment about maybe why we haven't seen more of Isaiah Gibson this season, despite him being a 5-star, despite all the struggles that the pass rush has went through this far. Maybe he'll give me one of those sacks that I asked for today. I want 4 of them. This will be just such a big momentum move for him. I think he needs the confidence. I think he's had a slower time adjusting to the game than we initially thought he would. So maybe a confidence-boosting play for Isaiah Gibson puts him in the right mindset that he needs to get through the last stretch of this season. Last guy, not a young guy. This one's more for the fans. It's for the culture. It's for me personally. There is no person on this team that deserves glory and recognition more than Roderick Robinson. His career has been riddled with injury, something that he can't really help, and we knew the potential he had to be such a talented running back for this team, and unfortunately for him, just really hasn't gotten the opportunity. You see it there this year, just 2 carries for -3 yards. Career-wise, 30 carries for 196. He does have 2 touchdowns on his career, and he will not technically be a part of the senior class today. He would be a part of the senior class next year, but there's no one who deserves it more, and I feel like Sanford Stadium would just absolutely go wild if Roderick Robinson had his moment today. All right, so with that, I told you guys we would talk to Jeff Sentell. We're going to talk to him about what capabilities Ryan Montgomery has and why we haven't seen much of Isaiah Gibson this season. This is Sentell's Intel. And now on DawgNation Game Day, it is time for Sentell's Intel. I expect that we are going to see a lot of freshmen out there on the field today that maybe we haven't seen this season, but I really just want to know from your perspective, up to this point, which true freshman has impressed you the most?
Kaylee, it's a good question, because remember how the year started? Ethan Barbour started as an H-back the first game, and he got sidelined due to an injury. And then, like, you saw, like, Talon Taylor flash a little bit. He got sidelined due to an injury. So, like, it's one of those things, even when I think about all the freshman contributions this year, I got to remember that I got to make sure, put it out there, that those were 2 more guys that were expected to be shining right now. But without a doubt, Kaylee, let's keep the main thing. Dontrell Glover. The guy's so good, he needs a nickname right now. A freshman, just mauler, what you want to see at every position. I think he's one of the top 20 freshmen in the country because he has stayed in the Georgia starting lineup. And really, Dog fans, Dog people, knowers of ball, they can see this and they go, okay, when Georgia made Dontrell a permanent part of the lineup, and then they added they added Ernest Green III at right tackle, and then obviously left tackle Monroe Freeling. When those 3 spots got stabilized on the line, the offense started rolling. Gunner started really taking off as a passer and as a leader of this offense, and you got to just move the chains. So Dontrell's a guy, we knew this coming out of Langston Hughes. Officials thought he was blocking people too hard. He was on a state championship type program, a state championship caliber type team. He was eventually bench pressing 475 pounds. So he had the want to, he had the ability, he had the skill, he had the football savvy and the knowledge. And it was one of those guys that, was a 3-star, not highly rated. But if you had to re-rate Georgia's class, you would have Dontrell Glover right at the top of their best signees in 2025.
So there's going to be a lot of talk today about Ryan Puglisi, but I want to talk about the other Ryan. That's Ryan Montgomery, the true freshman. Haven't seen him this season. Now he spent a lot of the offseason hurt. But if there was ever a time for Ryan Montgomery to get in the game this year, it's today. So if that's the case, I mean, is this something that he's ready for? And what's his biggest skill set that he brings to the table?
Really smart, Kaylee. High floor passer, very good processor. I've been told that he picked up the Georgia offense as well as anybody that's been in that room over the last 4 or 5 years. Kaylee, he's not going to have the wheels that Gunner, but he's got a major league arm. He's going to process the ball quickly. And again, he's coming off of a knee injury. So the only reason he might not play against Charlotte would be because, hey, still that knee, still want to keep it careful. But here's the favorite thing I've heard from insiders, those that have seen Georgia this year. They always tell me in reference to Jared Curtis, they say, well, that guy better be good. I hear he is good because Ryan Montgomery is good. And we already know that and how he's been able to showcase himself on the Georgia practice field so far. It started out, when he was in a no contact jersey. Obviously he had a knee brace to start out once he started working his way back because his senior season was cut short on the first game of his senior year by a pretty serious knee injury, but he's worked his way back. He's gotten really comfortable moving the Georgia offense, especially taking, some maybe third and fourth team guys and going against some of Georgia's top defensive players. He's really shown he can impress a lot of people so far.
So the last person I want to talk about is Isaiah Gibson, because on my list of young guys I want to see out there today, Isaiah Gibson comes in, 5-star edge, second highest rated player of the 2025 class. But I think I'm a little bit more surprised that we haven't seen more of him up until this point because, really up until the last 2 games, there wasn't that much pass rush from the edge, outside linebacker, and even the defensive line group. So, what can he bring to the table? And maybe can you explain why we haven't seen more of Isaiah Gibson sooner?
Kelly, I think it's kind of typical freshman stuff in the SEC. Like, these players are not supposed to play. So that's why, especially in the trenches, that's where all those grown men are. And they're not supposed to play, which is what makes the ascendance and how well Dontrell Glover and Juan Gaston are playing. They're doing that as a 17, 18-year-old kid going against 21, 22-year-old college savvy veterans. And I think Isaiah's just got to get his body right. I mean, the thing with him is he was rated as an edge, even though when he shouldn't be, because there are not going to be many edges in college football that weigh 270 while they're in high school. I think he's just going to work his way eventually into a role like Mykel Williams had for Georgia. And Mykel played around 260, 270, 275, and he was a threat off the edge. He also set the edge really well and worked really well as a plus run defender. So I think at those positions, I think Georgia's kind of stacked right now. They've got Gabe Harris. You see a lot of sometimes of Quintavious Johnson in there. And then really through no fault of his own, I think Zayden Walker has an elite burst, an elite ball get off the edge. So the best things that Isaiah Gibson did, which were his pass rushing skills, still not coming off the ball quite like Zayden Walker, who has elite quicks for college football already. So I think it's just giving Isaiah some time. We have seen him against the Austin Peays of the world, maybe in the Kentucky win and everything else like that. I think his time will come. He's just going to need a little bit more seasoning per se compared to those fast track guys like Juan Gaston and Dontrell Glover getting on the line early.
All right. So with that, Jeff, we'll say thank you. Always appreciative of your insight. Of course, for more on Georgia recruiting, you can check out our Wednesday night show Before the Hedges. And also, too, I just have to say I'm so excited to have Jeff back by my side for DawgNation Game Day when Georgia takes on Georgia Tech this upcoming Friday. We'll be on the field for that. So I'm really looking forward to it. And again, thank you so much, Jeff.
You're welcome, Kaylee. See you soon.
All right, so again, next Friday, 1:30, that's when DawgNation Game Day will start. I'll have Jeff Sentell by my side. I am so excited. I'm not trying to look ahead too much. We've got a whole game in front of us today, but it's going to be a great one. We'll hear from so many people. So next Friday, 1:30, DawgNation Game Day for Georgia and Georgia Tech. So now, as we begin to wrap up, it is time for my key of the game. This is Kaylee's Keys. this is my one key. This should also be everyone else's one key. Get in and get out. I think it starts with a fast start from the Dogs. So not only do you get the starters out of there, get the young guys in, prevent injuries. Last week brought a lot of injuries that could end up being detrimental down the line. So get your starters out. With that, you get quality playing time for young guys. Let them get some reps. Let them get some tape. Let them feel what it feels like to understand the glory of making a big play in Sanford Stadium in front of a big crowd. And with that, I think a fast start in a game like Charlotte's going to keep that crowd invested, keep Sanford Stadium alive, show out to all the families. So it's really all about getting that fast start, but you just want to get in, get out, stay healthy. I know that you guys feel the same way. So it's very simple. That's my key for today. Next, we're going to talk to Connor Riley, because I think that Connor and I were both guilty earlier this season of watching this Georgia team and saying, you know what, I'm not sure that they can win a national championship. They could potentially be a playoff contender, but I just didn't know if they had the talent or the ability to go all the way. But after these last 2 weeks, we reevaluated that conversation. So this is Connor Riley, not just on if Georgia can win a national championship, but also to what we might see from Ryan Puglisi today as well. And now on Dawg Nation Game Day, we welcome in Dawg Nation insider Connor Riley. Just a few minutes before this, Jeff and I had the chance to talk about freshman quarterback Ryan Montgomery. But I really want to ask you about Ryan Puglisi. Really good chance we're going to get to see him today. They know they want to get up, get Gunnar Stockton out. But I'm just curious to see what version of Ryan Puglisi we see today. We really haven't gotten to see that full skill set since a day like G-Day. At this point, he's just handing the ball off, but his real purpose is to be a gunslinger. So is that the version of Ryan Puglisi you think that we get today?
I think so. I think you can look back at, say, the Kentucky game where they got up comfortably in that game and they let him turn it loose a little bit, had a bad interception in that game, and that's going to happen. And I think that's sort of what this exercise is for, where, again, Georgia wants to get up big early in this game. I think that UMass game last year was very enlightening in terms of the way that they want to go out there and play in certain ways. And they didn't necessarily do that against Austin Peay to start the season, but with Georgia Tech on the horizon, you're going to want to get things taken care of early. I think this is a game where they really want to see what they have in Ryan Puglisi, and I think they have a good idea. We've seen him in spurts before, but doing against another opponent at the end of the season and a chance to really show how he's improved over the course of the season, I think could be really big for Puglisi moving forward.
I also want to ask you about the Georgia pass rush, because I think once it got to a certain point in the season, we were just willing to accept that there was going to be no pass rush at all. But looking at the last two games, 3 sacks at Mississippi State, 3 sacks versus Texas, and it seems like they're getting more pressure in general. Is there one thing in particular that we can point to maybe why this pass rush has gotten better? Or is it just one of those things that you mesh more as the season goes on?
I think it's helped that the quarterbacks they faced the last 2 weeks, Blake Shapen of Mississippi State and Arch Manning of Texas, weren't really looking to run. And so I think that helped them a little bit in their pass rush plan, and they could be a little bit more aggressive because they weren't quite as worried about getting beat outside and giving up big plays in that way. But I do think the emergence of Zayden Walker has helped. He just brings juice to this pass rush. You've seen Quintavious Johnson, I think, take real steps forward, which has helped out a lot. Gabe Harris had a big sack a week ago there. And the guy that is so close is Elijah Griffin, who at this point in the year, they're not really a freshman anymore. A lot of these guys now have 10 plus snaps, or 10 plus games rather, under their belt. And I think that makes a big difference for this team and this pass rush as they look to improve upon their numbers.
Yeah, you mentioned some of the younger guys, but I want to talk about the veterans, because today is senior day, and sometimes it can be confusing to know who the seniors are because of COVID years and redshirt years. So when you think about this senior class, who do you think embodies the essence of what it means to, we won't call it a DGD because I know that's been controversial before, but who's really embodied what it means to embrace this Georgia culture of physicality and toughness, and who are they going to have the most difficult time replacing in the future?
Yeah, for the first time in a while, we're not having to do the necessary guessing game, as a lot of players that have been impacted by that COVID 2020 year have now cycled out of the sport. The guy that I'm going to think of first when it comes to the senior class is Oscar Delp, 2022 signee, came in behind Brock Bowers. I think he represents everything that this Georgia program wants to be, doing things the hard way, finding a way to make an impact, sacrificing some personal numbers for the greater good of this team. Now, they're going to have Lawson Lucky potentially back next year as well, and that tight end room under Todd Hartley is obviously noted. But for me, it's Oscar Delp, a guy who I was at his commitment ceremony when he committed to Georgia at West Forsyth High School way back in the day. And I think that this is a guy that has matured so much and has made such an impact on this team. And really, even year over year, from where he was as a junior to where he is as a senior, Georgia's not where they are right now without Oscar Delp, and he's made an undeniable impact on this program.
So last thing, and again, big picture type stuff. From where this Georgia team stands right now, the version of them that we've seen the last 2 weeks, it feels like everything's just kind of coming together. You and I were both very adamant that we did not think that this Georgia team was capable of winning a national championship. Do you still believe that to be true, or has your ceiling of them changed?
No, my view of their ceiling has changed pretty drastically with what we've seen in these last 2 weeks. This team is peaking at the right time of the year. They are getting better as the season goes on. That's something last year's team didn't do, and I think that's a lot to be excited about. They know that they can go in there and hang against any team in the country. Yes, they lost to Alabama early in the year, but it was a 3-point loss. They beat the brakes off of Texas. They got a win in the fourth quarter against Ole Miss where they outscored them 17-0. In those two games against Texas and Ole Miss, granted, yes, both of them were at home, Georgia won the fourth quarter in those games by a combined margin of 38-0. That is what national champions do. They play their best football at the end of the season. And while this Georgia team is far from perfect, and I'm not saying they're going to win a national championship, this looks like for the first time all year a team that is very capable of doing that.
All right, so Connor, with that, we thank you so much for joining us. And for more with me and Connor, you can check out our Thursday night show, DawgNation at Large.
I do have a stat of the day if you want it.
Well, bring it on.
This senior class is 48-5. 3 of those 5 losses have come against Alabama. If you remove those, they are 48-2 against college football teams. So a great senior class, a chance that has a chance to rack up a few more wins this year and could go down as an all-timer.
Yeah, and I'm excited for your stat of the day for Georgia and Georgia Tech next week. So we'll see you then. And with that, hope you have a good Thanksgiving.
You too.
So, Connor, much like Georgia middle of the season, the first 3 quarters, I am just really confused at what's going on when it comes to the stat of the day, but always finds a way to close it out. Excited to see what he has for Georgia Tech next week. Now, one difference that I noticed today just being in Athens looking around is it's all the families, and I know that the price of college football tickets has gone up so much, so it's hard to get your families out to a game like this. So it's really refreshing to me just to see all the young kids out there wearing their Georgia jerseys. So for today, our hype video goes out to the next generation of Georgia Bulldogs.
Glory, glory to old Georgia. Heroes have graced the field before you. Men with hearts, bodies, and minds for which the entire Bulldog Nation can be justifiably proud. The tradition of unbridled excellence demonstrated by these individuals and many others spans more than a full century. And now, a new breed of Bulldogs stands ready to take the field of battle, to assume the reins of their Georgia forebears, to continue that tradition, understanding that there is no tradition more worthy of envy, no institution worthy of such loyalty as the University of Georgia. As we prepare for another meeting between the hedges, let all the Bulldog faithful rally behind the men who now wear the red and black, with 2 words. 2 simple words which express the sentiments of the entire Bulldog Nation. Go Dogs!
So a few things on this. Number 1, this video was narrated by Cody Chafin's son, an absolute star in the making. Wanted to make sure that he got his flowers. When I watched this video on Tuesday, the eye sweat was definitely rolling. It hit close to home, and as I sit here today, it actually means a little bit more to me. He was definitely not ready for this. Wyatt, come here. So I had the opportunity to have my brother with me for today. This is his first time going to a Georgia game as a Georgia fan. I'm not going to tell y'all who he really roots for, but to have him here with me, come stand in front of the camera, it's so special. Again, this is Wyatt. This is my little brother, and to watch that video, to see how much family means, to have him here with me, I just cannot be more grateful to be able to share this experience with him, get to live vicariously through his eyes as he's here for his first Georgia game. Do you have anything that you would like to say for everyone about what you're looking forward to today?
Honestly, I mean, I'm just thankful for the opportunity that I've been given. I think photography, it's a big thing for me. I think I'm going to go far. Hopefully colleges will notice my work. And hopefully I can turn this into a career, but I'm just excited to get down on that field and take some pictures.
Yes, he's here as a photographer today, super talented, on the rise. Sorry for calling you out. I just had to. All right, you can go sit. Super talented photographer. He's really excited to just get to experience a college game day, especially in Athens at Sanford Stadium. There's no place like it. And so to have that video, to have my brother, real full circle moment. I definitely wore my waterproof mascara today because I thought I might cry. I am holding it in right now. But it's games like this that remind me to stay grateful, to stay humble, to remember my beginnings and those that I do it for, like my brother, much like the seniors today when they have that moment in Sanford Stadium for potentially the last time. The memories are going to flood from beginning to end, but they know that they're leaving it in good hands, just like one day when this is all over for me, I know I will be leaving it in good hands to my brother, who I'm so proud of, just like this group of seniors, what they've done. The belief that they've given me that there is still hope for this sport and the players that play it can't be understated. So let's celebrate the seniors today. Let's celebrate potentially one last game in Sanford Stadium. Celebrate just the fact that we are even here in this moment, closing out the end of the regular season. Whatever happens from here, I'll enjoy it no matter the outcome. And the overall takeaway is what a pleasure and an honor it is to be a Georgia fan and get to witness stuff like this. So as always, thank you so much for joining me. Got to get over to the stadium. I know a lot of people were asking if the game was going to be on TV. It's 12:45, I believe, on the SEC network, in case you needed that clarification. So once again, thank you for joining me. We'll see you right after the game for the post-game show with Brandon Adams. And as this could be the last game in Sanford, I will give you one last Go Dogs.